Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. Welcome to my Mini-Mandala series. In these videos, I show you how to make a beautiful little mandala using very basic tools. So today I'm using a micron pen. This is a PN, plastic nib pen. Any fine line pen will work. I also have a pencil to do some drawing and shading. I have a blending tool called a tortillon. I've got a coin, and I have a little piece of scrap paper that I'm going to use like a ruler. And I'm just doing mine on a little 5" by 5" sketchbook. Any paper, any writing tools will work. You don't need anything fancy. Okay, let's get started. So today's mandala is going to feature a dragonfly, and I absolutely adore dragonflies. So this should be a fun one. So I'm going to go ahead and make a pencil line around my coin, like that. Then I'm going to draw, got some pencil line in there, going to draw a horizontal line across the center and a vertical line up and down the center that way. And then I need to take each of these sections and divide them in half. So I'm going to take my pen and very lightly come out like that. Now if you feel like one section is larger than the other, just adjust your line a little bit. That's why we do it in pencil. And I might go out this way. Checking to see if those sections are pretty even. That way. And that way. Okay, I'm going to grab my little piece of scrap paper here, and I want to make some markings on it. So I'm going to start by putting the corner of the paper down at the point. In my first section, I want to make about the width of my pencil, so right about there. So I make it on the scrap paper and then add a little line, a little dash right there. My next section I want to be about the width of the coin, so maybe right about there. It doesn't really matter for this. It just gives us a guide. So I go to the center point again. I draw little dashes on each of these lines. This is so we can draw a circle that is fairly even. I don't like to spend too much time worrying about making things exact, but we do want our circles to kind of look even, so this is a nice way to divide it up. Okay, now I've got my little grids in there. I'm going to take my pencil. I'm just going to go ahead and connect those with slightly curved lines. And I'm going to connect these. Again, you need to curve your line just a little bit. And I like to make short little lines as I connect these. Okay, and then just look at it and see how it looks. There's our grid. Okay. Also going to take my pencil and I'm going to go into these larger sections here, and I'm going to divide these in half so lightly with my pencil. So just this outer section here, take each one, try to keep these sides even. So just check those out. Okay, time to grab my pen. All right, I'm going to start in the center by making just a very simple flower shape. And I'm going to do this by making a teardrop shape in the center. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you. I'm going to do that in all 8 of those sections. And then I'm going to take that center and just put a circle there and ink that in. And I'm going to make a line out and a dot. Okay. So we're not going to get to the dragonflies quite yet. We're going to do a little bit more of just adding some patterns and shapes, and then we'll put the dragonflies in these larger areas out here. So right now I want to make a petal shape. It's going to take up that whole section there, and it goes from one corner up to that little point where I made the line and up here. So on this one, I'm just kind of meeting at that point or meeting at that line. These are slightly curved. It's a shape I make often in my mandalas. And then I'm going to ink in this circle that goes around it. So very slowly. It's okay if your lines are wiggly. And then inside each of these outer shapes, I'm going to put an orb, which is just a circle. And I'm going to put a reflection in there. These I just kind of feel like look like little bubbles. And dragonflies start out as eggs in the water, and then they emerge as dragonflies and fly out into the world. So this to me kind of looks like a water lily or some kind of a water flower. And these are little bubbles that just make me think of ponds. Put these little orbs in and a little bit of a reflection. And I'm going to take an eraser. I forgot to mention to grab an eraser if you have one. I have this one. It's just a kneaded eraser, it's called, and it's just kind of squishy. And I'm going to erase the pencil lines in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to add this other layer of petals just by going up and around each one, just to fill in a little bit of that space. And then I'm going to put an aura inside these petals. So I'm just going to put a line along that inside. Adding these little auras is something that's pretty easy to do, but it adds so much detail. It just makes it look more intricate without having to do too much work. Okay, my center is done. Now I'm going to add a little aura around the outside. I'm going to make this really thin so I've got room for my dragonflies. But I want a little bit of space between the center and the little insects. And I hope when you look at mine, you notice how uneven it is. It's okay. All right, so time to draw these dragonflies. Now, when you're making a mandala, at this point, you could put anything. You could put a butterfly, a ladybug, a leaf shape, a heart, anything you want. So I'm going to do dragonflies. If you'd like to do something else, go ahead. So to do these dragonflies, I'm going to use this big section here. I'm going to notice my long lines going out, and I'm going to do this section with the little line in the center. So my dragonfly body, I'm just going to make, like, I call it a stick dragonfly, because I'm not going to give it a wide body. I'm just going to do a line. So my line is going to go up almost to the top, but then I'm going to give it some antenna. So I'm going to follow this line up, and then I'm going to curve off this way and give it an antenna, and curve off that way. Okay, so now to make the wings, I'm going to make a wing that starts not in the center, but above the center, so a little bit higher. And it's going to come out and touch that line and go in. It's really narrow. Then I do the second one from that same point, go out and back in. The first one kind of angles up a little bit, and the second one kind of angles down. I'm going to go to the next section. I'm going to go up, and when I get towards the top, I'm going to jump off and do these little antennae. When I find that middle point and I go up a little bit, now I'm going to try to make this wing touch this wing. So I'm going to loop around and come back, loop around and come back. I go this way. When I find that next section, I go up the middle, and then I jump over and do some antenna. Find that middle point and go up from there. The wings are towards the head. Touch that wing and that wing. Keep them narrow. If you're doing a dragonfly, a butterfly looks different, but the dragonfly has narrow wings. Take your time making the antenna. Take your time making those wings. Now, because of the way that we added our lines, some of our sections might be smaller than others. It's okay. Our mandalas do not need to be perfect. We're just enjoying the process, enjoying putting pen to paper. We don't want to judge ourselves too hard. I try to start all 4 wings at the same point. Adding those antennae, finding your starting point. There's no reason to rush. I've got 2 more sections to do. Trying to make those wings touch the wings of the one before it, because that makes its own pretty pattern. Antenna. And wings. Oh, I love this so much. It looks so cool. All right, I'm going to add a few details to my wings. So I'm going to start at that first one, and I'm going to put in like the letter C on each end and a backwards C. Just the slightest little detail on the ends. And the next one, I'm going to put a line down the center of all 4. And then I'm going to put these little veins in here. And I like to alternate sides and alternate the space. So make sure you start from the beginning and make your veins go out, out, out. And in my next one, I'm going to do that C shape again. In my next one, I'm going to do the veins. If you want to make yours all the same, you can, or if you want to make every single one different, there's endless ways that you can decorate these wings. Now I'm doing that C shape. I got ahead of myself and forgot to add the veins. Okay, there we go. My next one is veins again. I have 2 left to finish. This would be a really fun one to watercolor or add some colored pencil to, or some markers. I'll probably just leave mine black and white, but feel free to make yours as beautiful as you'd like. Okay, my dragonflies are done for now. Now I'm going to trace this line that may or may not touch the antenna. Depending on how high up you had yours go. Okay, I'm going to aura this line. So I'm going to put, not very wide, but I am going to put some decorations in here. So I'm going to aura with a pretty narrow line all the way around. Again, these auras are not always easy to do, but don't worry about it if yours isn't even. Okay, so in this little area here, I wanted to add another element of the dragonfly life cycle, which is the egg. And the eggs are kind of long and narrow, so I'm going to use a shape that is kind of like an oval, but a little bit pointy at each end. And mine are going to go diagonal, so maybe I'll take my pencil and just sketch in like a wide zigzag, just to show you. So I'm going to make this little seed shape or egg shape go like that. And then it's going to tuck down the other way and then back up and then down. Does that make sense? If you have something else you'd like to do, go ahead. I just liked, no one's going to notice that that's a dragonfly egg, but I like knowing that I put it in there for a reason. I'm not worrying about how many I have in each section, just adding these little pointy ovals. They go up and then down. I've been wanting to make a dragonfly mandala for a long time with you guys, but each of these mandalas that I make, I start doing some sketches and then I draw different variations, and I tend to overthink each one. And when then I actually sit down to record a video, I tend to change things up a little bit. So my idea actually was to have circles all around here. But then as we're working, I thought, well, what if we put the egg shape in there? I'm only telling you that because I want you to know there's no right or wrong. Please always draw whatever makes you happy or what is easiest for you. I literally make these things up, so you can't do it wrong. There we go. Right, the last detail that I want to add on the outside is the element of water, because I think it's so special that dragonfly eggs are in the water and they swim around as little nymphs and then they emerge as a dragonfly. Nature is so incredible, isn't it? So I had lots of different ideas about how to draw water around the outside. There's so many cool things that you can do. So here's what I'm going to do. If you want to do a different version of water, go ahead. Maybe down here I'll show you a couple versions. Okay, so one is, to make that basic shape like that. And then on each of these curves, add this little spiral like a wave. So another version that I had was to make those little waves again, add a spiral, and then add, like I would go from this spiral here up and around to this one, and then I would do it again and maybe again. And then from this one I would go down and up around to that one, and again and again. So there's lots of different things you can do. I think I am going to stick with this basic one right here, which is the waves with a little spiral. But if you want to add more spirals to make it look a little more interesting, go ahead. Okay, so I'm just going to pick a spot here and I'm just going to start making little tiny waves. I'm just trying to keep these about the same size. just that repetition of that U shape. And that one got a little too close to the other one, but that's okay. We're just going to let it go. All right, and then I'm going to take each U, and you can pick what side you want to do it on, but I'm going to jump up and make that little wave. I like how it matches the shape of the antenna. And you know I like to repeat my shapes or patterns in different parts of a mandala. Just going on one side of that U shape and adding these little wavy curves. Okay. So you're welcome to stop there, but I do feel, I always change my mind as I'm making these. I do feel like I want to show this version as well in case somebody wants to do this. So I'm going to show you how I would do that. I would go under this spiral and jump up and around under that spiral. So I go under this one and then jump up and around to that one. Under and up and around. Under and up and around. And then you can add more of those inside or on top. I think it looks more like an ocean than a pond, but that's okay. Just wanted that water element in here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and finish this, and then we'll do some shading. These change so much when we add a little bit of shading to them, so we'll see how that looks. I love adding swirly shapes to mandalas. I think I'm adding 3 to each one. My brain just kind of starts counting, and I get into a rhythm of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think I'm done drawing with ink. If you would like to go and add anything else inside these areas or add more to your flower, go ahead, but I think I'm going to be done. So I need to initial my work. I usually do that before I do my shading, just so I don't forget. All right, let's do a little bit of shading. So I'm going to shade the outside of this flower here by putting a little bit of graphite around those outer edges. And you could even shade first and then go back and color these in if you'd like, but you could still do the shading. And then I'm going to add shading around those little orbs. Those little bubbles. Okay, take my blending tool and I'm going to push that out so it goes over the bubble a little bit. I'll zoom in on this part for you. Maybe, there we go. And then I'm going to put a little bit around the outside of these petals. Not very dark. And I can push that out. And I'm going to put it on the outside of this circle here at the bottom of the dragonflies. And I'm going to push that up towards the dragonflies. Okay, now I'm going to go on the outside of the wings. Now this sounds like a lot of work, but I want those dragonflies to sort of pop off the page and look like they have a shadow behind them. So essentially I'm just tracing very lightly with my pencil around the outside of those wings. It does not need a lot of graphite. But we don't want these dragonflies to look flat against the page. We want them to jump up just a little bit. Nice and light with your pencil. Shading always seems like a lot of work at the end, but it really makes your artwork look amazing. Okay, now I'm just going to go around each of those wings and I'm just going to soften it the littlest bit. Look at how these dragonflies look so different than the ones that don't have the shading yet. Doesn't that look so cool? I love this one. That didn't take too long. Okay. If you need to catch up, just push pause. So my next part is these little eggs that we made, and I don't think I want to do much to those. I could definitely shade around every single one, but I think I'm just going to leave it. So I'm just going to put a little bit on the outside edge of each of those. So the inside of this circle here, at the top of those dragonflies. And then the outside edge of those little eggs. Just kind of giving this layer its own little highlight. Softening that edge. It doesn't need a lot of attention. And then softening this edge by the waves. Look at how cool that looks. All right, then I'm just going to take my pencil and I'm going to do a little bit on these waves, and I'm just going to put it right here underneath that little curve and the top of this curve. Underneath and then on top. Underneath and on top. And then when I go back and I spread that out just a little bit, it just makes those waves look like they've got some depth. So underneath and on top. Basically, I'm adding some shading where those lines sort of come together and make a natural little dark area already. And then if we leave that center of the wave light, it looks like the light is hitting that. So the bottom of each wave and the top of each wave. All right, and that was it. It's a lot of shading. I'm going to zoom out so you can kind of see how this looks all shaded. I think it looks amazing. I hope you liked this one. It was one of our longer ones, but I really love putting those dragonflies in the center, and I love all the elements of nature in this one. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.